Hello everyone. How's it going?
Hey,
Hi.
hey.
Listen. I gotta read this out to you. I just got this. India Willoughby just tweeted this today. This is India Willoughby, who's been trying to get a ferry driver fired for saying he's a man. Today has been absolutely dreadful, but at least I can tell you the full story of how I was attacked by a mob, cancelled over the next few days in the Times, Daily Mail, and BBC Woman's Hour. I've also opened a crowdfunder, India Won't Weesht, to get me through, to get me through this difficult time.
Well, that's not what it says. It doesn't say to get me through this difficult time.
Yeah,
You're lying, right?
Yes, no.
Because you're a comedian.
I'm afraid not. Unless this has been faked. This is it here. It's extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary.
India won't reach.
Wow. Talk about narcissism. Holy moly.
It's so crazy. You know, I had a bit of a wobble the other day because I don't know about you, but I found we're talking to Linda Blade today about the sports situation, which no wonder Aaron Rabinowitz didn't want to speak about it because it is. I don't know whether you I'm sure everyone's heard it by now, but the recording of the mum whose daughter is on Leah Thomas's team, where she tearfully, explains how she had to tell her daughter that if there was a man in her changing room, she didn't have to accept that.
It's the most powerful. It's the most powerful thing, isn't it? She's so defiant, and she is so angry, and I think it's really interesting because we've seen this happen. We've seen it slowly ramp up. But I think these women hadn't really heard anything about it. And as she says, I suddenly woke up in a different world because it's been just bam, straight. They've suddenly it's just hit them. And they're looking around. She knew so little about it. She went to the ACLU. And she had no idea that actually they would
going
say,
into the belly of the beast.
That they would say, actually, because it says on their website, we can't have gender equality without... and then it lists all of the other things that it needs to do first. Racial equality, sort of transphobia, ableism. It lists all of these things, which, and then it says, so it's basically saying, until we fix all of these, you can't have you're literally at the bottom of the heap. We're doing all of this stuff first.
Unbelievable. It's shocking. And they were literally saying that, they have to destroy the concept of sex, essentially. They're at war with the fact that sex exists. It's just astonishing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the first time. I mean, I think it is the first time I thought, oh my God, what if we don't win? Because someone said that to me and it shocked me. They said something like, I was actually Stella O'Malley. She said, you gotta, if you don't win, if we don't win, you got to be careful about blah, blah. And I was like, what? Because it was the first time I'd ever considered the idea that we wouldn't win. But if you're in America and you have these organizations, Harvard and Penn State and all these actual sporting bodies who are saying, yes, this man has the right to be in a space with your daughters. I don't know.
It's very early days, though, isn't it? It's very early days. It's just, this is the first thing that's actually publicly happened. And these people are waking up and they're looking around and there's no help from the likes of the ACLU. However, there are literally millions of ordinary people who are looking around and saying, what the actual fuck?
Yeah. Well,
and it will... and it will permeate around and it will happen because there is no way that it will continue that just, any chap who says he's a woman will be allowed to swim. I mean, even they are still considering it, aren't they? I mean, they've said we'll continue as it is for this season because it wouldn't be fair to him because he's done all this work. But,
are you fucking kidding me?
Well, that's what I got from the podcast, which is,
I didn't realize. I thought it was unfair on the competitors as a whole.
Maybe, but he's one of them, isn't it? But I do think they must see how terribly unpopular this is. They are seeing it. It's not the Penn University is saying, yeah, no, this is all good. They can see it every day, every time.
But it's almost not the problem. It's almost the problem is still the gatekeepers. The problem is still the people who should know better. I mean, you know, like at the moment, I'm dealing with the people who are putting on the TED musical, who are trying to take me out of the picture, you know. And it's like I have to say, listening to that woman speak about her daughter, I changed my mind about a lot of things, and one of them was, I'm not going to back away from the TED musical. They're going to have to remove me, and they're going to have to tell people why. They're going to have to say, I support the right of this abusive man to cheat at a sport, to be in women's changing rooms against their will. You know, they're going to have to fucking explain that to the public. You know, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Well, honestly, hats off to you, Graham, for sort of standing up and saying, well, no, I'm not going to take my name out of it. You know, it'll just generate the publicity that it will. And, you know, people will see it. And you know, people are slowly seeing it. You know, that they are. The pen thing is really getting to people. You know, and you can see that it is, because they actually issued a gag order, didn't they? They said to the girls, you can't talk about it. And that extends to the families. And this woman said, no, absolutely not. I will not accept that. I will talk about it. I mean, like, it's just, and you cannot carry on with an ideology that requires people to just be quiet. You can't. I mean, you can do it for a while, but long term, it's completely unsustainable.
No, really unless you literally would have to create a fascist state to keep this going. You would literally have to, you know, build something up that's like, you know, you'd have to build gulags to send everyone to them, because it just will not sustain itself. You know, we don't it would take someone like Stalin to keep an ideology like this going, and even Stalin's ideology didn't last very long. You know, it eventually fell apart. It's just not sustainable because it's just so artificial. But we do need more people speaking up. The problem is how long it's taking before people realize how bad the problem is, before people understand the stakes and who is facing the problems, namely women, and to a lesser extent, gays.
Well, you know, I mean, like I saw, I think his name is Curtis, who's in the American LGBT Alliance. He posted a young woman who she did this video where she just points out her clothes, which are just like, you know, she's got like a jumper and trousers on, and she says, "What about this says I'm a woman? Why do I keep getting fucking misgendered?" And she screams it. And there's also
she can't comprehend the difference between the clothes you wear and the sex you wear. It's insane.
It's extraordinary. You know? And then there's images of her at a gay club trying to get in, screaming the word faggot at these gay men because they won't let her in. You know,
that's a great way to ingratiate yourself into the gay community.
And this is what the producers of TED want to get rid of me for. They want to get rid of me because I oppose this kind of homophobia. No.
I rather suspect that the producers of TED want to get rid of you because they're worried that people are going to be shouting at them and that they will be boycotted, etc., etc. I suspect that I don't know, but I'm guessing that they haven't said to you, it's because we absolutely disagree. It's because we believe that this male swimmer should, in fact, be allowed to swim with women and girls.
It's always like that. They always say it's because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to be in the fire. I don't want to be in the limelight.
I've had this from the moment I started. Like I was supposed to write another thing that I was cancelled. I was supposed to write a kind of accompanying piece to a Paul. What's his name? He wrote. Oh my God, my brain's gone. Anyway, he wrote this guy. The guy who wrote Equus. He also wrote a fantastic short comedy called Black Comedy, which is a genius idea. If you haven't seen it, you really must try and see it. It's what they do is the stage opens in darkness, and you hear people talking normally, and then all the lights come on, but everybody on the stage acts like the lights have just gone off. So we can see what's happening in the play and it's such a genius
wow. Is it Peter Schaefer? Peter Schaefer,
that's him, yeah. And the Peter Schaefer Foundation, they asked me to do it, and then they wrote and they said, no, we don't want to get in. We don't want to get involved in this. We don't want to take sides. You know? So
but isn't that terrible? We don't want to get involved. It's such cowardice, isn't it? Because what not getting involved means is that they're actually letting women and girls down. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
It's not neutral. Not getting involved anymore isn't neutral.
They're supporting
same with gays. Gay men do the same thing. I'm like the only person I speak to people who kind of quietly agree, but they won't speak up. They're scared. And then they'll happily throw me under the bus or distance themselves from me, knowing that I'm kind of right, but it's kind of like, oh, you're controversial, and I don't want to, it's particularly bad in Canada because that's kind of our nature, is to be scared of controversy and to be little chicken shits. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's not a problem we Irish have. But
the silencing, even these last couple of days, I've been reported to Twitter twice. Twitter has locked me out of my account twice over the last couple of days because I engaged. Well, Katie Montgomery engaged with me, and the anger, the rage that's coming through the tweets towards me are actually quite frightening. In fact, so much so I've blocked. It's really, really, really sort of furious anger, and then and all of the sort of followers are just furious stuff. And I've just been reported twice in 2 days. Today's one was for tweets back from 2018 where I was quoting what people were saying about TERFs. It said TERFs like diet choke.
That's
it was actually fine.
Do. Yeah.
Katie Montgomery specifically.
I said today,
reporting.
Today I was like, I've blocked them. I was like, I'm not actually accepting this. So I appealed. And honestly, Twitter came back within the minute and said, you're right. You go back into your account.
Well, it's because they have a full-time staffer dedicated to you by now. So.
Can I make a point?
She's got a little desk with a thing that says the Helen Sandlin department.
But can I make a point about this? What I find most interesting about this is that they come to you. Like, you wouldn't be,
you're harassing us, they call. Once they say, please talk to me, ask me your question. And then I shout harassment. I don't know who these people are.
They throw abuse at you. They come at and the reason that you make them so angry is because you expose them as perverts and creeps. Because only perverts and creeps would not accept that women have a right to same-sex spaces. And I say that about all the people that you're dealing with. They are perverts. And even if they're not, even if they're just misogynist and they don't care. It's very telling that it's so angry. There's a huge amount of male rage against women going on. I mean, you can just see it just comes through to the extent that I was like, actually, this is frightening me now. It's too much. Too much anger. Do you know what I thought about it? I thought about it recently, Helen. I began to worry about you a little bit because I thought, for Helen, it's kind of like a series of men lining up who are all like the villain in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Michael.
Remember the guy who was torturing women in his basement in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That's what all these men are like. It's like they're all lining up to say, no, I agree that women are kind of shit and don't have any rights, and they're lining up to tell you that. The psychological effect of that on you, Helen, must be kind of upsetting.
It would be, except for the fact that there are so many amazing people behind me, so many supporters. I get, and it was the other interesting thing is that you get them complaining. They say, you just quote tweet, and it's almost like they're saying, what I want is to be able to isolate you and have a go at you.
Yes, I want to bully you in private.
And not have you actually expose my bullying. I do think, and I think we said this at the beginning of lockdown, that social media, and even Zoom has allowed women to almost be a little bit more equal. You're not you're not drowned out by this. Well, certainly on Twitter, you're not drowned out by the sound of a male voice over yours, and you're certainly not intimidated by their presence in your space. And I think this has angered quite a lot of men because they're used to just being able to overpower by the force of their voice or simply their physical presence. And they want to still do that on Twitter. They still, they want to isolate me. They just want it as a one-on-one. And my quote tweeting, for me, I think it's a really powerful tool that, because there's power in a union. But for them, it's fury because they cannot no longer isolate their prey and just, and sort of tear them apart. And I'm like, why would you even admit that this is what you want and that this is what you're angry about? It doesn't look good.
That was why I had to go. I had to go from Twitter. By the end of it, I started off on something like 800,000, 900,000. I lost something like 400,000 because I started talking about this. But by the time I left, there was still a fairly big audience there, Yeah,
500,000 people is still a lot.
Half a million people. Yes, it's still a lot of people. And
that's one of the reasons why you had to go, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they don't want people to know that women are being bullied in this way. And I was the only account of that kind of size that was sharing that information, So I had to go. Hey, look, Linda's in an interesting place. I hope we get a good. She looks like she's at a meet or something. Linda Blade is here with us. Hi, Linda. We'll bring you in one sec. Just gonna. Is there anything else we should cover? We should quickly chat. I should say, very important thing coming up this week that I hope everyone will be involved in. On the 4th, there's going to be a protest about the University of Cork inviting a.
Oh no!
Oh, is he gone?
Oh, you're still there. I'm still there. Graham, you're frozen.
We're still here. Who's gone? It's Graham.
I can see you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Graham, come back.
I think maybe you.
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I think Graham, you might need to restart your stuff.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, maybe I'll just fill in. He was talking about there's going to be a protest organized around the University of Cork, Ireland. He's back because they've invited Susan Stryker, who's a man, to a lesbian conference about lesbian lives.
Did I disappear there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
you did.
Sorry. Yeah.
There's a glitch in the Matrix.
What did you give the monologue and we all missed it?
Yeah, I went onto a different page. I was just chatting away to myself. That's interesting. Listen, this is interesting. Yeah, I might make use of this. Thanks for that, Mama. I may well make use of that. But anyway, University of Cork. Let's draw as much attention as possible to the homophobia of the University of Cork in allowing a man to speak for lesbians. It's absolutely outrageous, and I just want to make sure everybody knows about the action between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. In 2 days. So
Susan Stryker is a great example of a man who's just completely indulging his narcissism to this outrageous degree, who's just being feted and celebrated by academics as if he's found some key to the universe, or he's got some knowledge to impart on the world. There's no knowledge to impart. He's just completely obsessed with his autogynephilia.
Yeah.
I was just mentioning last night. He's got a big giant shoulder tattoo, like who's Jacqueline Moore. You remember, got the tattoo of basically himself in a woman's body with an erection and ejaculation.
God, that one.
Oh, that's horrible.
I know. Now, Susan Stryker has a shoulder tattoo. He also shows off all the time. It's not quite so graphic, but it tells the story of his real motives. It's the robot from the movie Metropolis, who is a woman-shaped automaton who was created by a man and controlled by a man to indulge his desires. So he's literally got tattooed on his shoulder, showing off to the world, is a female robot created and controlled by a man, so a man can get what he wants. That's literally, he's telling the story of why he's wearing women's clothes and why he's claiming to be a woman, right on and he's showing it off everywhere. When you're obsessed with the idea of a woman-shaped automaton controlled by a man, and you're pretending to be a woman, I think that explains the whole thing.
It's not well hidden, is it?
Yeah.
And
he shows it off. He's always like showing off his beautiful tattoo of the robot woman that is controlled by a man.
Yeah. It's and also, and I love the way Grace Lavery always looks like he's a lifer who's just escaped prison in a very unconvincing disguise, you know. But listen, anyway, Linda's here, so let's bring her in. Linda, hello. It's lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Lovely to see you again, Linda.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, are you at a pool?
I'm at a pool. Is it too loud?
No, it's
great.
No, it's
so
perfect.
appropriate.
Listen, Linda, let's just go straight into it, because I think that first of all, lovely to see you. We had you on. God, it must have been a few years ago now, or
Well, about a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get mixed up with how long this channel's been going and how long I've been fighting this nonsense. But but Linda, like the last time we spoke, you know, obviously these things were on the horizon and they were beginning to happen, but the Leah Thomas story has just been so extraordinary. That how is it going down over there?
Huge. I mean, everybody's asking what is going on. Everybody's waking up. I think it's an excellent advertisement for everything we've been saying, including what I said in my book. Of course, I want to show my book again.
Definitely.
I wrote this book on sporting, how trans activism and science denial are destroying sport. It came out in May. So you know, everything I've said here is basically coming true. That
Yes.
if you think that it's going to be one or two people and that's not going to destroy women's sports, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, most recently, we've had the very brave mother who made her testimony available. And I don't think anyone who hears it could
I cried.
I know, it's so upsetting.
I cried.
Yeah. Do you know her personally?
I do not know her personally. I was in the green room, you know, the before backstage before the webinar on Saturday. So I really just thanked her personally to say, you know, it's amazing that any one of you are speaking out. People are demanding it, but I understand the stress that puts. And the most important stress is between her and her daughter, actually, because her daughter is scared to death. She doesn't want to be the one on campus everybody hates. She doesn't want to be, you know, she doesn't want to be the one that doesn't get a job in the future because her families are the bigot family. So this mother is just dying to be out there and just speaking out. She's so angry and upset. I mean, it's more upset than angry, but both. And, you know, she just really wishes she could speak out. And I guess she's going to have to wait till her daughter graduates or something. And I keep thinking this, all of these girls are very smart girls. They're in Ivy League schools. What's going to happen about 2 or 3 years down the road where they think back and they say, you know, I didn't step up then, but I am still mad as hell. And I am going to do something about this. So this isn't over in the first year.
Sorry, how do you mean?
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. You know, these girls will take this experience going forward and it'll make them want to fight even harder against this ideology. And as you say, they're smart. They will get jobs that they might well have some power.
Yeah, and you know what? They're probably going to go after NCAA, all these organizations retroactively. Great.
That would be amazing. What do you think? Do you think things like this, the mother had that experience where she rang the ACLU thinking they were going to help her, and they gave her a lecture.
Unbelievable.
It really is. Do you think a lot of people at the moment are being woken up in the same way that she is? That, like, people may have thought a year ago, or whenever you brought out your book, Linda. Sorry, I'm not sure when you brought it out.
May 2021.
Yeah, people might have thought that we were exaggerating or that the problem wasn't going to be so. But now we have the situation where not only are all these things, it's not like a threat they're going to happen, they're happening, and the people who are protesting are being silenced.
Yep.
Do you think that a lot of people who may have called themselves trans allies, thinking that that's what you call yourself, are now beginning to wake up to what actually is going on?
That's exactly what's happening, even to the girls, because they now see the woke culture as their enemy. Even though they can't say anything, they suddenly understand this isn't about affirming somebody's ideology. This is about an attack on me as a female human being. an attack on me. And
Yes.
they are so overwhelmed. I mean, why would all those girls, I don't know if you heard about the fact that the last race, when Leah Thomas was not in that last race, all the girls held hands and walked around the swimming pool in solidarity with each other. It was the first race they were.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I actually had tears in my eyes to see that. You know, it's the small act that they could actually do without people saying, hang on.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
It's really great. So all of those are signals to me that there's a very clear understanding what's going on here. And people are being stifled, and it is authoritarian, it is totalitarian for the time being, because you have to be that. You have to be a totalitarian monster to force people to lie all the time about sexual reality.
That's what I was saying before. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to last.
It's not going to last. It can't. A lie cannot stand. A lie cannot stand. I don't know how long this is going to take, but we are not losing this fight. A lie cannot stand.
Now, Linda, when you and I spoke almost 2 years ago on my channel, you were talking about how people at the top of the sort of administrative chain were giving the orders for the transgender ideology to permeate, but people on the ground level, those who were waking up to it, weren't standing for it. Tell me more about what's going on the ground level. Has the tenor changed? Is there more awareness? It sounds like there's more anger. What's it like?
A lot more anger. A lot more people asking me, because remember I said that our Athletics Alberta policy was the only one in Canada that was pushing a different agenda than the trans agenda. We are basically doing the traditional sex-based policy. And so now I have people from New Zealand, Australia, Europe, everybody's asking me, what does your policy say? How can we get this right? Like, how can we do sex-based policy? So it's those little things like behind the scenes where, you know, and I always say, like you saw with the truckers in Canada, that the whole thing happens bubbling below the surface. People are unhappy. It's bubbling. And all of a sudden it gets to a certain point. And I think you know this about our country, Artie, is just like all of a sudden it bubbles and everybody's fuming. And then all of a sudden something happens and the whole thing just explodes. And then you realize how many people were on your side. And I have a feeling,
because Canadians are so quiet. We wait until it hits a boiling point before we speak up. And then it gets loud.
And frankly, you know how that sound the tea kettle makes before it starts to boil? It's, you know, it's getting louder. Let me put it that way. It's starting to get louder. And I feel it, like because I'm there and I'm always open on Twitter and everything. I'm getting more and more comments about, can I talk to you privately? I had a nice conversation. I know he was on Megyn Kelly's show podcast yesterday. Coach Seth Houston from Rice University. He's one of the coaches, you know, stepping up and talking about this. In fact, it's the first open interview he's ever had yesterday on the Megyn Kelly show, which is huge, millions of viewers. And he is basically saying, like he's just going to have to, you know, he just has a sex-based policy for himself. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. But he did ask me about my policy, and I mean, privately, and, you know, so people are asking, like a lot more people are asking than they used to. And that's what I mean, the sound of the tea kettle starting to get close to boiling. And so I really believe that. And then also there's women around the world, as I presented on Saturday, there's now 7 women from 7 countries. All of us are starting to talk to each other about forming a sort of umbrella organization to actually have a very vast representation of women for sex-based rights for sports, that we can have a seat at the table, whether it's the IOC, whether it's, you know, because so we're actually doing things up here at the top, and we're actually doing things down here, and in the middle is all these bureaucrats who want to keep pushing this, right?
Wow.
And we're and I want to squeeze them so that finally there's in a bubble, and we can actually have representation throughout, because in Canada they're still trying to push this ridiculous thing. But interestingly, in Canada, Sport Canada, which is the main governance, like the main funding agency. So you have other members, you have the ministry, and then you have Sport Canada, which is the funding branch, which has criteria for funding. They still don't want to go with the trans agenda. They want to go with sex-based. I know they do. But the thing is, though, here's what's happened. Little unbeknownst to Canadians, a lot of Canadians don't realize that Justin Trudeau has installed the LGBTQ Secretariat. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that, Artie?
No, I haven't.
So there's this kind of thin layer. I always talk about, you know, the hamburger, like we at the bottom, we're the bottom bun, and then the bureaucrats are in the meat. and then Trudeau and his cabinet are the top bun. And then just below the top bun, there's this layer of lettuce called the LGBTQ Secretariat. And any policy that's bouncing between the cabinet and the bureaucrats goes through the sieve where it has to be appropriate language, appropriate inclusivity.
Right.
So every single thing that's coming out of Trudeau's cabinet, and whether it's sport or anything else, prisons, anything, it has to go through this sieve of 24-year-old, gay people and LGBTQ people that
I just want to be clear. I'm almost certain there's not a single gay person on the LGBTQ secretariat. That's just it. They're doing it in my name, but it makes me cringe when I hear LGBTQ because I know it's the TQ appropriating the LGB.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with gay men.
But Randy, our own MP from here across the river from the swimming pool is Randy Boissonel. And he's actually a gay man, and he's the one who championed like the conversion therapy, the the LGBTQ, everything. And it's like the young men who are his friends who are all in this secretariat who are vetting what we say.
It's very, very frustrating. It's infuriating.
It's actually this sort of phantom. It's not phantom. It's a very real layer that no policy can get through between cabinet and the bureaucracy without going through this vetting process, which is woke. So no wonder everybody's captured. And no wonder then what I say is that the fight has to happen at ground level. Like in the provinces, this is where we fight.
And it's testimony to how many more gay men and lesbians need to speak up about this.
Exactly.
We have to make it clear that we don't stand for this. If it's being done in our name, we say no. I want to shout even louder. Yeah.
Do you know what?
Randy would understand.
Can I say how brilliant it is that you've written this book so that people know that they can come to you. You have been open about it. You have been honest and brave, and you've said it. And so all these people now know that there's a central point that they can come to. And so this organization of people, this underground movement of women getting together about this, is because they know that they can come to you, which I think is absolutely brilliant. You have been incredibly brave over this, and fair play to you.
Well, you know what? I can't help it because I was in a position in 2018 when I discovered this, that I instantly knew I could only go one of two ways. I could go full woke and affirm everything, or I had to stand my ground, because the minute you give an inch, you've already gone to the other side. And I was actually representing 3,500 members of my association as elected president. I actually campaigned on this issue as well, saying, this is what I'm going to say as your president. And they voted for me. So I'm actually compelled. I'm the first person who's actually campaigned in sport on this issue and won. And I am compelled by my membership to actually have this position and speak. Not that they endorse every single thing I say, even my Twitter is my own. But I am saying it's beyond even being brave. It's my being accountable to the people that I represent.
Yeah.
Sorry, Grant.
No, sorry that I nearly interrupted. I have to say, there's a childish part of me when I read the idea about the girls sitting on the blocks rather than racing him. I think that, we're all talking about the gatekeepers and so on, but I really do hope that Leah Thomas gets humiliated like that sometime, because the man is a cheat. He's a cheat. It's that simple.
He is. But but he's been enabled, right? Somebody should have just said right at the beginning, no, you shouldn't do this. But now, like, honestly, even like at this point, even he must be be very unhappy about the vilification that's happening. I mean,
Helen,
he must be.
Helen,
surely.
Helen, listen. No, sorry, Linda. I'd love to, because I have a feeling that we're talking about a certain type of person here. Very much. I
know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like a Trump type.
Yeah.
He's a Trump type. He's someone who...
it's a narcissistic personality, isn't it?
He enjoys pushing
it's very narcissistic.
He's delighted to be pulling one over on people. That's who he is. I think he's it's like a criminal mindset, And I think that luckily, there's nothing that people hate more than a cheat.
But I have to say, though, we really have to stop this as quickly as possible. It's urgent that we put a stop to this, because the more people buy into it, the harder it is for people to back out of it.
Yes,
this is why it's so urgent.
Where I was getting to.
Yeah, like the more, because there's the sunk cost fallacy. The more administrators and bureaucrats and heads, and the more students and athletes, male athletes themselves, who buy into this ideology, the harder it's going to be to undo it all. And it's going to get to a point, if it goes on too long, where there's just too much humiliation. There's too much price to pay to undo the mess we've made, that people will want to just plod forward. So we really have to make sure that we stop it now. We have to stop it before it gets too difficult, or it's going to be a much harder slog, you know?
Well, can I say,
I think, yeah, please.
Can I make a point about this? When I read the statement put out by Penn and Harvard about, women, you shut up and everything.
Yeah.
Because you know what they're doing? They're not saving Leah. They're not saving Will. I will call Will because Leah is Will. They're not saving this male from having hurt feelings, because he's loving every minute of this exposure. So what they're actually doing is basically saying you're going to hurt the silent people on campus who are trans. So now we've got, that's what it means to me. It means that we're actually using sport as a platform to have a propaganda, but also in such a way as to not hurt people who have nothing to do with sport. Like, it's just become this big political thing where we're actually using this NC2A sports as a way of advocating for a group, but not really putting them in a feeling of, feeling unsafe.
Well, I can't see that any, any transsexual would like, for instance, I know that Debbie Hayden, sorry, every time I say Debbie's name, I get a million attacks, but I'm going to say it anyway. But basically, Debbie once, when asked about sports, says a very simple thing. Says, if you are committed to transitioning, if that's what you're doing, then you have to give up sport. You have to give up sport. It's like, why? And but the thing about Leah Thomas is, Leah Thomas's penis isn't going anywhere. Leah Thomas's penis is staying very, very. There's no transitioning with Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas is just taking the piss, and we have people like, over here. There's so many examples: Stella Creasy and Colma Gorman and all these people, and they're all supporting it. They're all supporting this man taking the piss. Anyway, sorry, I know.
Well, it will backfire. I know Helen wanted to say something.
Yeah,
I think I thought I wanted to go back to your point, which I thought was really interesting earlier, about these girls who are now, they have actually seen the power of woke ideology and how bad it is for them. And honestly, I suspect that there are actually loads more on that campus who are seeing it as well, and are questioning it and are asking themselves, what is it that's going on? And this, although the whole thing is terrible, that's not a bad thing, because a lot of these young girls have been sort of groomed up until now to believe that this is, anti-trans homophobia 2.0, and have just gone along with it. But they're seeing it right in their faces, and they're waking up. And that's such a powerful thing, I think.
It's, as I just noticed, a comment said state sanctioned sex abuse. It absolutely is. And to have somebody in the locker room, especially, it's outrageous. It's angry the most. Like the fact that you have indecent exposure, and that the girls are not only supposed to be quiet and just deal with it, they're actually being threatened to not stand there and be in this locker room with a naked male. Like, where are we? What happened?
I know, right? Where are we? Absolutely, I'm completely.
I think I think a lot of these people, the changing room is really what the battle is about. Remember there was a rugby player who was playing on the women's rugby team, and the women said, "You can play with us, but we don't want you in the changing room because you just said you're a woman a few weeks ago." And that was the moment he freaked out, and he said, "This is unacceptable." That's what they want.
They're sex abusers. They're sex abuse. Yes. It absolutely is.
I think there's a deep desire for some men to be in women's changing rooms, in women's spaces. They find it extremely alluring, and they just don't care about the women in these spaces.
It's the kind of affirmation they want.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second, though? Just a brief thing, unrelated. We just reached our 1 millionth view just now, so congratulations, everybody!
Hey, and Linda, you were here. That's fantastic. Thanks, Artie.
Hello,
that
everybody.
makes sense.
Hi,
One of our earliest guests is here for that. That's great.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say so. I was going to say something about the basically, I this is a whole other conversation, but you have a bunch of men who've grown up with pornography, you know, and they're now coming into these spaces and demanding access to them. You know, that makes the whole situation, you pointed this out, Helen, recently, that makes the whole situation even more terrifying. These are men who simply do not recognize women's what's the word, agency. You know, they don't believe it. They don't believe it's a consideration they should have. You know, it's extraordinary that
women should not have their personal private space. That's what they're. That is the message.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
It
well,
is.
it's why Helen's question makes them so mad, you know, because they know that it cuts right to the heart of that.
True. You know? Helen, you're in big trouble all the time for that.
So much trouble. But actually, I sorry, just on that same subject, I thought that was actually one of the fury moments that mother displayed, didn't she? She said, "You've always got a choice about whether to expose your naked body to a man. You've always got a choice." And it was such a powerful moment.
It was a
I want to say to that mother, her speech was incredible. It was sort of heartfelt, but it was really rousing. You know, people listen to that and they're like, yes, I'm with you.
I've sent it to certain kind of people who've been largely silent on this issue, and I've said, you know, have a listen to this, and then you know, like because if you're not speaking up against it by now, it has to be said you're complicit. You're complicit,
right?
And this is
2 years.
This is rape culture.
Yeah.
This is rape culture.
Yeah.
You know, so So Linda, what you know? Are there any thing? First of all, what's next for you? And then how can people who are watching the show help?
Well, the key
what type of things can we do?
Well, one of the things that I had said, especially with this international umbrella group, all of the efforts that we want to do at the level of the sport federations and having a seat at the table for negotiating our eligibility categories and rules, it has to go through. This is a consortium of the groups like Fair Play for Women, like Save Women's Sports, like Champion Women, all these different groups across the world that are advocating for sex-based boundaries to some degree. They need to have, like, if you want to join, you need to support those organizations and work through those organizations so we can track who we're representing. Because, you know, I always made the point after Tokyo Olympics, basically IOC Richard Budgett, the head of medical commission for the International Olympic Committee, basically said, you know, the 2015 inclusion rules were not fit for purpose, and we're going to redo them, and we're going to. So they did. They redid them, but in between, from the end of Tokyo to November, when the IOC released its newer, more ridiculous rules, they were having consultations, and we noticed on Twitter the TRAs, the trans activists, were actually the ones being consulted again, and not us. Mm-hmm. And that's what inspired us to say, well, at some point we actually have to say we represent women. Because, you know, if let's say Richard Budgett himself had called Linda Blade after the Olympics and said, can you represent us on this panel? Well, who the hell am I representing globally? Like, I mean, there was this question of who actually can speak on behalf of women. This is the problem. This is why we're trying to get together and have a universal standard declaration and have a standard statement of position so that we all advocate for the same thing. Because I was saying at the time, Save Women's Sports Australasia sent a letter to the IOC saying, can't we be at the table? Why are we not being consulted? And they wrote back immediately and said, consultation is closed. We've already consulted with groups like yours, speaking of the women. And so we were looking around going like, who's speaking for us? And what are they saying? Like, what's happening at the table? Who actually speaks for us? Because whatever they're saying, they're clearly not saying it clearly enough, because it's not actually helping us. It's not actually resulting in policy that helps us. So who was saying what? So I actually emailed all the different groups around the world and I said, did you get consulted and what did you say? And all of those groups said, no, not one time were we consulted after Tokyo. Not one time. So IOC was lying. And then I thought for a long time IOC was lying. And then I noticed this one thing was sent to me, that there was one meeting where there was a group called Women's Sport International that was there. And I've been trying to contact those ladies to say, who are you and what were you doing at that table and what were you representing and how were you representing us? And they will not answer me. So this is the kind of representation we have had so far.
Wow.
That's
Linda,
super
can I
shady.
say,
Wow.
you're such a force, you know, to actually do all of that, to email everyone, to say, all right, let me find out who actually did. That's amazing. You know, there's very few people who will actually just say, all right, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to find out. And you are one of those people. And this is why people are now coming to you. This is why you are this central person in this fight. And honestly, I really, really take my hat off to you. You're so
appreciate it.
Powerful.
Yeah. Well, look where I am. This is my job. I'm not going anywhere. Where am I going? It's like
in Alberta, where you have some jurisdiction. It is more or less sex-based, the things that you have jurisdiction over. Is that right?
In our association, it does. Yep.
I
have a very clear standard. The very clear standard is very simple.
And your association is Athletics Alberta, right? Athletics Alberta.
Yes,
and
Athletics
anybody
Alberta.
who's registered, it's sex-based. This is great. And you're a model then for other jurisdictions to look at what's going on.
Use our policy.
Good. That's the way to do it. You know, you have one, place where it's sex-based. And have you encountered pushback on your sex-based policy in your jurisdiction?
Once or twice. In fact, the major pushback was from our national governing bodies, Athletics Canada, telling me it might be illegal what we're doing.
Right. Wow. Only because of Justin Trudeau's sneaky rules that they keep throwing in.
And I said, well, it might be, but you might be illegal to force gender ideology on us because we have the charter that's sex-based rights. So we're not moving. And I also have the ability to consult with our legal team. They came at me like saying we've been consulting with the legal team about what you're doing and I said, well, we have a legal team too, and we're consulting about what you're doing. And then it stopped.
Exactly.
They just wanted to silence you. They just wanted to silence you, didn't they? They wanted to cow you into silence by saying.
Can I tell you a very interesting story? So we had our national meetings in early December, and we were all the provinces at the table, and the Athletics Canada was ready to put their gender policy on the table for vote, like we would have had an inclusive policy. And that was the same week that there were three things that happened that week just before that meeting. Leah Thomas happened, the first big one. And then they had the Macdonald-Laurier Institute in Canada put out a policy paper that countered that narrative that was written by Emma Hilton and John Pike. And that was released nationally. Mm-hmm. And then third, I was at the table saying, this is who we are. We're not going in. We don't agree with you. And all three of those, they actually waited. They had an extra long meeting. And then at the end of that, as we went into the AGM, they actually made an announcement that they were taking their policy off the table for the time being.
Hey! They would win the vote. Yeah.
They were afraid. And also they were afraid it was illegal. So you know what? The very fact that all these three things came together in the same week just before our meeting saved us from having a national policy that's utterly ridiculous.
Wow. Great. So extra thanks to Will Thomas.
Yes.
and of course, Dr. Fonda Beatles, Emma, and who was it? John Pike. John Pike, yeah. I've been following them. They're great.
Yes, they've put in a lot of work.
Yeah. So basically, it was a great report.
Linda, we'll put in the description to this video any links that might that people might want to use to help in some way. So let our producer know, Jen know what it's good to link to. Yeah, do you want to tell us
two
what
things?
they are?
The MLI report will be one of the links. The report by John Pike, Emma Hilton, and Leslie Howe, and then the other one is Athletics Alberta policy.
Okay, but I'm also talking about things that we can do. Things that people can do. Yeah. So have a think about that and let us know what we can do.
Linda, does your book go into that? Does your book talk about things that people can do? Does it have a part?
Yeah, it does. It says to support the organizations like Fair Play for Women and Save Women's Sports. So it's absolutely go through those organizations. They're becoming very effective.
Great. Well, Linda, it's absolute pleasure to talk to you as always. If there's ever anything that you want to come on and, if you want to tip on our shoulder and tell us to pay attention to something, then please come on again and let us know.
Thank you very much.
Linda,
apologies for the noise.
No, it's great.
It's perfect. Perfect.
I can
It's
practically
perfect
smell
visual.
the chlorine. Oh wow!
Yeah.
It's a swimming pool.
That's brilliant.
All right.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for coming today. It's been
you.
absolutely brilliant.
And we won't leave
All right, I
it.
appreciate you
We
having
won't
me.
leave it so long till next time, Linda.
Okay, very good,
Okay.
very good, very good. Okay, we'll see you.
See you
Yeah,
soon.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Great.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
there we go. That was lovely.
What a force of nature. I mean,
Yeah.
single-handedly changing so much there. I'm just so in awe of her. So impressive.
I know. I
So
interviewed her
impressive.
for my channel a couple years ago, and I'm plugging this video not because I want you to go to my channel, but because I want you to watch the interview with her. Her life story is staggeringly extraordinary. She's been all over the world. She's been teaching women to become athletic all around the world. She was in the Arabian Peninsula for a while, and she's just been. She's just a force of nature. She's done extraordinary stuff. She's so perfectly positioned to be in this fight because she was an athlete who was furious at all of the doping that was going on. So she knows personally the cost of cheating in sport because she didn't get a chance to excel as much as she could have because other athletes were doping in the 80s in her sport. And then she went all around the world teaching women about the power of athletics to empower themselves. And then she came back and became one of the head organizers for athletics. So she's perfectly positioned. She knows about the power of athletics for women's rights. She knows about the importance of fairness in sport. She's experienced it all firsthand. And she's just such an extraordinary organizer. And she knows how to rally people. And
we'll post
she's
the
extraordinary, charismatic.
It's the perfect storm of things, isn't it? And it's all come together, and it's in this particular fight. She is the right person at the right time. Honestly,
and she sees the stakes.
If I was on the other side of her, I would think.
Well, she proves again that turfs are heroes, basically. that's that simple. There was something else I was going to mention to you, some other thing coming up, but it's popped out of my head, and I've done that thing of speaking over you when I don't have anything to say.
That's all right.
I'm so sorry.
We've got time. That's fine. It's fine.
No. I do kind of. It is going to be interesting what happens next. I mean, you could almost say that Leah Thomas is performing better than any turf at the moment. Like I think.
Yeah. He's peaking the world, man. Like people have heard of him now. I mean, people really have heard of him now. But he is like. When you say Leah Thomas, when you say the swimming and you say Penn, people know what you're talking about. I went out for lunch just the other day. Some friends of mine, we don't talk about this stuff that much. They had heard of it and they were like, what is going on there? So an hour later, they're like, yeah, okay. We get it.
Yeah. Well, I have this phrase that I want to try and popularize, which is this diversity benefits men, and not just men, but white men. It benefits most of all, it benefits privileged white men,
Yeah, I know. Amazing.
So I think I can see a whole kind of meme series being based around Leah, because he's such a perfect, he encapsulates all of that, Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I did like her phrase though, lies won't stand. I thought that was really, it's such a powerful thing to say. And she's right. It can't, people will not stand, they won't put up with it for too long. Even these people who are now looking around and thinking, I won't jump in because it's dangerous for me. I don't want to say anything. They're uncomfortable. They can see it happening. And at some point they'll tip over too, and they will say stuff. And, they only need to see that tipping point. And then once that tipping point is here, everyone will talk about it and everyone will say, oh yeah, no, I never thought that was right.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to all the people I've been speaking to behind the scenes who've been saying that I'm wrong on this. And I'm looking forward to them pretending they always agreed with me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey,
Aaron Rabinowitz is going to write an essay being like, we're always men.
Hellcat here is saying we should talk about Scotland, and I'm not exactly sure what specifically you mean, but I did want to say, I don't know if anyone has read the really major piece about Nicola Sturgeon in the Telegraph today, but my God, does it lay it on the line. He's like it's called something like the week that Nicola Sturgeon betrayed women, you know, and it goes really, it's all the way in. It's like you know, she thought, and the interesting aspect that I picked up from the piece is that Sturgeon thought it would be an easy win. Sturgeon just thought, oh yeah, I'll fucking, you know, give a thumbs up to trans rights and get a few younger votes.
Yeah,
you know. But now she's painted herself into a corner, you know, because she's been so stupid, like everybody who fights on the other side. She's been so ignorant and stupid and offensive. Like I remember the protest that was outside that I joined outside the Parliament building. I can't remember what it's called. Sorry, excuse me. Holyrood, is it?
yeah.
Yeah, the protest that I joined, that there, like someone was outside, someone was at it, and Nicola Sturgeon said to him, "You should shame." He said, "Shame." And immediately, you know, because he was with a bunch of feminists who were protesting, who want to keep their sex-based rights. I think Sturgeon is in real trouble with this stuff. I really do. I think she's just completely under.
Well, it is a problem, isn't it? Because, like we've said before, it's a really difficult position to take. You know, I find my position really quite easy to argue. You know, I have no problems arguing it. But if you're constantly on the side where you have to, you know, it's always something that just makes you angry to talk about because you have to lie. It's really, really difficult, and it's really stressful, I think, and it just makes you angry and incoherent and unable to really argue it properly. And and it is trouble. It definitely is, because it's unsustainable. You know.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like that brilliant. I know I've said this quote many times, but from David Mamet, who in Glengarry Glen Ross, he says, "Always tell the truth. It's easier to remember." Yeah, and the thing about that is like, as I've always said before, that the central inversion, trans women are women, you know, which first of all is like, it's essentially saying men are women. But the second thing it does is that it doesn't define trans women, and it doesn't define women. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's a completely confusing and incoherent basis for movement. And that's why they're so angry with you, Helen, because you keep clearing it up. You keep saying, but this is what you're arguing for. You're going to defend this. And they can't bear it because the only time they're comfortable is when they're swimming in the incoherence that this movement has created, you know?
Yeah. But it's also
in fact, I just
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I wanted to say actually, I got a lot of real anger that came from, I think, started over at the skeptic movement. That, you know, that Aaron chap, he tweeted something. He wanted me or us to engage with his article, which I wasn't even going to give any credence to because it was ridiculous. It had transhumanism in the title. For Christ's sake, you're not going to engage with that. But then we went back. We turned it back to the question. And he really showed himself up, I think, by saying, you know, I'm going to laugh at you all dying mad about this. And it was such an unpleasant, obvious sort of, I'm just here to laugh at you, to laugh at women having to fight for their single-sex spaces. And I sort of quote-tweeted that, and he quote-tweeted lots and lots of anger. But there was a huge amount of angry men, furious men that came from that movement. I thought it was really interesting. Real anger.
That's a real example of, these are people who've doubled down on the wrong side of something. And the skeptics, they pride themselves on being right about everything. They're very self-satisfied a lot of the time. And they're really angry because they're cornered. They're like, shit, you know? We're basically bought into a religious movement, and we're pretending to be skeptics, and you know, it's very embarrassing. So yeah, they're angry.
Well,
our own leaders, you know, Michael Shermer, who was like very much a huge figure in the skeptic movement, he's endorsing, it looks like he's endorsing at least a lot of open dialogue around this issue. Richard Dawkins, who's not quite so much a skeptic as an atheist, you know, is endorsed the gender critical side. They're losing their own leaders, you know. It's really falling apart. And the skeptics down on the ground level are realizing that they fucked up. And I can see they're really angry. This is a perfect example of what the future is going to look like for us. You know, when all these people get cornered, they get angry. Yeah,
but I feel slightly embarrassed at getting Aaron on. He's not a serious person. I thought he was
small problem.
I thought he was serious because he entered into that conversation with
Andy Lewis.
But the thing about it is his stuff was just all gish gallop, you know. He didn't ever he did everything he could to wriggle out of answering Andy's questions.
Anyway, I'm not interested in the chap. It was, I mean, as you say, he's not particularly serious, didn't have any particularly serious arguments. But exactly. It was just interesting how much anger came from men over in that corner of Twitter, which had not really come across before. But they were furious. Just really quite shocking.
It was.
Anyway, I wanted to finish on a high note. Linda Blake, what an amazing woman! I'm so glad we got her on. I'm so happy she came. And you know, and also the mother of that girl. Honestly, sort of, just my heart goes out to you. But I'm so pleased that you made that recording, because it's so powerful, and so many people have heard it, and I'm really glad that you transcribed it, Graham. You know that you did that, and I think so people can read it, because it was kept on being pulled down, right?
Yeah,
really, people just didn't want people to hear it.
Yeah. I think the truth of that might be a bit more complicated. I think it was more to do with fear of the woman herself. I'm not sure it was being pulled down. I think it was just perfectly understandable panic about the effect it might have on the daughter. Fair enough. But like I will say though that I think someone wrote to me who said that they know her or they've been speaking to her. That's why I know that. And I hope if that person's watching this, can you please pass on to her? I think that statement in itself is going to make a huge difference. I really do. I think you're going to wake the world up with that statement, you know, and I urge everyone, if you haven't heard it yet, I urge you to listen to it. Don't read it, listen to it, because it's when you listen to it that it's really.
I'll have to do that. I've read the transcript, but I haven't listened to it yet.
You got to listen to it early. It I think it's a game changer, you know. But anyway, lovely to see you guys.
Yes, lovely to talk to you. Yep.
Yeah, congratulations to us on our 1 million views. That's amazing.
Oh yes, that was brilliant. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I'm going to be doing something with some Jen Specht has organised a Detransitioners Day, and I'm going to be speaking to some lovely people who I met over the weekend. Grace, who's a detransitioner. Who's a friend of Corinna Cohn, who I also met in the flesh. I forgot to tell you that I met Corinna Cohn.
Oh yeah. Oh, I want.
We had a lovely time hanging around Dublin and drinking cocktails. So that was really good.
Nice.
So look out for that. I'm going to be doing a rare one-on-one interview coming up soon. But
that's hopefully next week for International Women's Day. We might have a woman or woman.
Oh, there's no might about it. There's no might about it, Helen. Next week's mess is going to be all women. Me and Artie are going to go and complain and throw bricks at the window. And a big left out.
And I'm taking over. I'm in charge.
And then on International Men's Day, we're going to have an International Men's Day one. So, yeah. I was thinking.
I think we have to create an International Men's Day first, though. I don't think.
Yeah. No, there is one. Did you not know that?
There is. That's the meme. That's the joke, isn't it? When is International Men's Day? Was it Richard Herring? He made his Twitter persona on it. November the 11th. November the 11th.
Yeah. But still, you know, Richard believes in all this nonsense. So, you know.
All right, guys.
Okay, everyone. Lovely to see you soon. Thanks for joining us, commenters. Bye-bye. Love you.